Moving on to the next question, which is really for all of you. One of the things that has been on everybody's lips in the past few months has been the lean startup movement. So my question for you would be, do you see these principles really catching on in traditional business, or do you see them to be still simply confined to perhaps the IT environment? And if you do see them applied to traditional business today, what do you think are the sectors that are more likely to embrace them fully?
I think lean startup is fascinating. It's engaged a completely new audience. The whole entrepreneur market, the whole IT market has been captivated by this because their dream is to build a startup, make lots of money, and become famous. Now, lean startup, I think, starts with a core set of the same principles, and that's what actually is its strength, and that's what appeals to it. But actually, in the end, lean startup is only a piece of the story, because every startup, particularly in the IT business now, grows from a startup situation into a scale business very quickly. And immediately, you see the big companies like Google and Amazon and Apple and so on, they have all exactly the same problems of any other big organization. So you still need lean to help run those big corporations. Lean startup can offer inspiration and unlock things and improve the way you run projects and so on. And it's great, obviously, for a startup situation. But it is a piece of the life cycle of an idea. The life cycle of an idea actually matures, grows, gets acquired, becomes old and traditional very quickly. And I think what lean has to offer is the ability for when the idea scales, that it doesn't become sclerotic and traditionally Taylorist.
A couple of weeks ago, I was at the Lean Summit in Orlando, and we saw a story of GE Appliances. They are applying the Lean startup ideas now in ramping up the new factories. Going in the product and process development back from traditional 6 to 8 months within GE to 1 to 2 months. So using the lean startup ideas. But it's one of the rare cases that I've seen up till now within traditional manufacturing of using these startup ideas. And it's funny because in the startup community, it's hardly known that there's lean. Within the lean community, there's hardly no sense of the startup community yet. So
I think there are two very important ideas that Lean Startup movement highlighted. It put the spotlight on two things which really apply across the board. One is the notion of pivot. And change is difficult. Change means you adopt something new, but usually it means you sacrifice something. Adopt, just abandon. If you want to adopt something new, you have to abandon something you usually hold dear, which is what your success or failure was based on. And people often tends to be like crapshooter. They play the same game again and again, waiting for the double six. And sometimes it comes if they're lucky. But the startup idea had this idea of pivot, that if something doesn't work the way you want it, you change your mind. And in order to pivot, it also highlighted something which is traditional in lean, but they really put the spotlight on the minimum viable product. And I think these two ideas have been a breath of fresh air, certainly have an impact in manufacturing. I'm certainly involved with engineering products where we're now coming up with, it was a great way to communicate something that we never actually found a way to communicate it. It's brought a lot of the new audience, younger, motivated entrepreneurship. On the other hand, Dan is actually right. If nothing fails like success, if they do succeed, they become a business like any other, and so we're back to lean. And also, lean is very specific. I think Dan has been very instrumental, very leading in showing how specific lean is to different industries, different situations. So what works with a web startup or an internet startup might not actually work with an actual physical product. I think most businesses now are going to be a hybrid of code and physical products. So it's absolutely brought a fresh air, focus on a few concepts that we had not highlighted so well before, but it's only one part of the story.
Great.
But again, I love the lean startup ideas, and in particular the idea of the minimum viable product, of actually small incremental improvements that you test in the marketplace. But there is a danger also in that of testing in the marketplace gives you the answer. Actually, it doesn't. It gives you some data, and you need to interpret that. And so actually there is a lot of wisdom in being able to actually interpret what the market is saying. And how do you manage a platform? How do you manage a community of users and so on? That's kind of not yet described in the lean startup literature. And the other piece that is not well described is actually how do you frame the initial question you're trying to solve. And that's a perennial problem in any IT environment, is that nobody actually really knows what they want, because you don't have expert users, because you don't have a process that's been sorted, so therefore you don't actually know what you want. So the IT guys are constantly doing rework and so on and getting very frustrated, and you end up with a product with lots of defects. So the IT world is just gradually coming to they're coming out of the function and recognizing that in the future IT is going to be embedded in every function. And that's quite right. And to do that, they have to actually work with expert users in those functions who have already leaned those processes. And then when you automate them, it's actually a lot simpler, because you've taken away a lot of the noise and the broken process, and you can actually provide real good value when you do automate. So I think it's an awful lot of new insights that have been repackaged and are adding to the portfolio, particularly in the IT and the startup world.
Great. Thank you.